Hi, I'm Scott Bakken with HHA Sports, and today we're sighting in our brand new Optimizer Lite. We just mounted the sight to our bow, and when mounting it to your bow, there's two options. There's two different mounting holes. You have a set of holes that extend the sight out a little bit farther from the bow, and then there's a set of holes that keep the sight a little closer to your bow. It's all personal preference. I prefer to have my scope housing out a little farther. So today I mounted my sight in the farther holes just to get the scope housing out a little farther. To sight in our sight, the first step we're going to do is we're going to shoot at 20 yards. There's two methods you can use when sighting in your Optimizer Lite. You can use the 20-40 method, which is shooting at 20 yards and 40 yards, or 20 and 60, which is shooting at 20 yards and 60 yards. The preferred method is the 20 and 60 yard method. That way you get the exact tape that you need. However, today, not everybody has the luxury of shooting 60 yards. So today we're going to show you the 20 and 40 method to get your yardage tape. So we're going to start off at 20 yards here. We have the target down range. On your Optimizer Lite, you're actually going to want to start with your slide as far down. So when I say the slide, there's a little brass needle. You want that all the way down and start from there. And what that does is raises your scope housing up. So your scope housing is up for closer yardages. It's going to be down for further yardages. So we want your arm down. I'm going to start for 20 here. I'm going to start at about mark 10 and just see where that gets me. And then we'll go from there. If you don't have a lot of room, or if you don't have a big target like we have here to shoot at, you may want to start closer and do some really close range shooting, like 5 yards, just to make sure you're going to hit the target. But for this purpose, we're going to shoot at 20 yards and see what happens. All right, so our first shot left and right was actually pretty good. Up and down are probably about 4 inches high. So in this case, because I started off at mark 10, I have some room to go down. So I'm going to move my adjustment arm and needle down as far as I can, and we'll see where that puts us on our second shot. So I made the adjustment, and now our needle is bottomed out at 0. So this is as far down in my slide as I can go. So shot number 2 is actually a little bit low, so I adjusted my slide a little too much. So I'm going to split the difference. My first arrow I was at mark 10. My second arrow I was at mark 0. So I'm going to go to 5, mark number 5 on my setup tape, and shoot arrow number 3. All right, so arrow number 3 was perfect. So we found our 20-yard mark at mark number 5. So we're going to make mental note of that, and then we're going to move back to 40 yards and get our 40-yard mark. And again, you can find your yardage marks two different ways, the 20 and 40 method or the 20 and 60 method. And right now we're doing the 20 and 40 method. So we're at 40 yards, and if I was at mark 5 at 20 yards, I'm going to go ahead and try probably mark 25 for 40 and just see where that gets me. Again, we have a pretty large target to shoot at, so at home, if you have a smaller target, go 20, 30, and then back to 40, but we're just going to try mark number 25 and see where we hit there. So I'll make the adjustment to mark number 25, and we'll go ahead and shoot an arrow and see what happens. Okay, so I was a little high at 40 at mark 25, which I kind of thought I would be, but it was worth a try. So I'm about a foot high, so I'm going to come down. I'm going to go from 25 to about 18. So I'm at mark 18 right now, and we'll see what arrow number 2 does. All right, looks like arrow number 2 at mark 18 was pretty good. Might be just a hair high, but for what we're doing right now, that'll work. Your groups don't have to be absolutely perfect to where you have arrows touching each other. If you can put 3 or 4 arrows in a paper plate, that's plenty sufficient. So I'm pretty happy with that arrow. So it looks like my 40-yard mark is at mark number 18. Now that we've found our 2 yardage marks that we need, our first yardage mark being at 20 yards, our second yardage mark being at 40 yards, we can now find the pre-printed yardage tape that we need to have our Optimizer Lite sight sighted in from 20 yards all the way out to 80 yards. So at 20 yards, we were at mark 5, and at 40 yards, we are mark 18. When you take 5 from 18, that gives you number 13. So we're gonna go to our conversion chart that comes with your Optimizer Lite, and we're gonna find number 13. If you look straight across from number 13, it'll reference number 29. This is gonna be our final tape that we use. So we're gonna find tape number 29 in our list of pre-printed yardage tapes. We're gonna match up our 40-yard mark on our yardage tape with our 40-yard mark on our setup tape. So our 40-yard mark on our setup tape was mark number 18. So I'm gonna take the 40-yard mark on the yardage tape, and I'm gonna line it up with 40-yard mark on our setup tape. Now that we have our yardage tape laid down on our Optimizer Lite slide, we have successfully sighted our sight in from 20 yards to 80 yards in 5-yard increments. I'm Scott with HHA Sports. Check us out online at hhasports.com, or you can visit us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.